تحتل مينيسوتا المرتبة 12 من حيث المساحة بين الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية، ويصل عدد سكانها إلى 5,300,000 شخص. تبلغ نسبة المسلمين في ولاية مينيسوتا حسب إحصائية السكان المسلمين 1% فقط. جولي امرأة أمريكية تعيش في ولاية مينيسوتا، ورغم نشأتها كمسيحية لوثرية فقد اعتنقت الإسلام قبل 30 عاماً.
من أنزل الأمطار وفجر الأنهار وأنبت الأزهار تزخرف الجبال، من ينشر الصباح ويرسل الرياح ويملأ البطاح برزقه الحلال. الله 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 الله.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Julie Radi. I became Muslim and I converted to Islam about 30 years ago. My background is pretty normal for a Minnesotan. My mother came from a Norwegian background. My father was German. We grew up in a small town of about 1,500 people, but there were 13 churches. And no synagogues and no masjids, but 13 churches.
تعمل جولي كمعلمة في مدرسة أوكودا الابتدائية.
This is part of the media center where we bring in classes and the media teacher will talk to the students or read a story. This is the rest of the media center. In our district, we're very proud of that we have many computers. We also have 2 computer labs in there. And then plus, this is where I bring a lot of my students because it's a nice quiet place to study with them. But during the daytime, it's very active and very busy in here.
Right?
I like that story.
Can I tell you about my day at work today?
Yes, please. This is my daughter-in-law Zara. She is married to my oldest son. And this is Haider, her very busy 2-year-old. And this is Isra, my younger daughter-in-law, that she's married to my youngest son Ali. And they are sisters. And they were born in Iraq. And so now they have come and alhamdulillah they are married to both of my sons. Yeah.
Good salam alaikum, salam alaikum.
Oh, shake
Salam alaikum. لا إذا يمين. Salam alaikum. كيف الحال؟
بوسة جدو.
بوسة
Hala, this is so good.
So maybe Isra tell us.
Because I grew up in a small town, there were no Muslims around us. I didn't know anything about Islam. I was surrounded by Christians. Everyone was maybe a different kind of Christian, but a lot of Methodists and Lutherans in my town. But then when I came up here to go to school, I was working at the University of Minnesota, and so I saw some people there that were Muslim, didn't know anything about them, and was actually too shy to talk to them. But then I met my husband, and it was a very strange kind of meeting. It was on Valentine's Day. I was at Southdale Shopping Center, which is a big shopping center here, and I happened to ask my husband what time it was, or he asked me what time it was.
And then after that, I found out she works at the university, which is I have a lot of friends and contacts, and I also was attending there as well. So kind of made it easier for us to meet more.
One thing led to another, and I was asking him about his family. He was asking me about my family. He wasn't used to seeing snow and everything, so I was telling him about Minnesota and growing up in Minnesota. And of course, I was born and raised in Minnesota. I decided that I wanted my mother to meet my husband. My brother and his wife and my two sisters came to meet Salah. I invited them up for a dinner, and it was kind of strange because my mother, she's very, very easygoing, and she said, even after 15 minutes, she said, "He's perfect for you." And so even though he was from a different culture and a different religion and a different language and everything, my mother kind of recognized that we clicked. Through him, I met a friend of his that his wife was American. And so she happened to be a student at the University of Minnesota, and I worked at the University of Minnesota. She would come over and visit me in my office, but she was wearing hijab. She was wearing even a black hijab a lot of the times. I felt a little bit uncomfortable, but she seemed so genuine. So we continued to meet, or she would come and visit me in the office. And the one thing that was really nice was she was never pushy. And then, of course, I was talking on the phone, or I would get together with my husband. He wasn't my husband at the time, but we would get together or go out for lunch or something like that. So through this, I started learning about Islam.
As soon as she found out about Islam, she started studying on her own, and she she reached the conclusion it was the right faith to follow. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma inni as'aluka mujibati rahmatik wa azaima maghfiratik.
When I started finding out about Islam, and I met my friend that was a Muslim for 1 year, and she wore the hijab, I asked right away about that, because that was a big deal to me. That seemed to be very drastic, and I said, what does Islam mean? Like, what do you do as a Muslim? My husband was saying, there's so much to learn about Islam. So he said, even myself, I was born Muslim, I don't know everything about Islam. So he said, we have people that are knowledgeable, that they go to school. They are the true ones that know a lot about Islam.
So we have a program, for instance, for explaining the Qur'an, teaching the converts about the tenets of Islam, what does it mean to be a Muslim, and to live like a Muslim on a daily basis.
Maybe they will feel bad. Do we do that with each other? No, if somebody transgresses against us, even with one word, our wrath.
كانت جولي تتعلم أكثر فأكثر، وبدأت تلاحظ الفرق بين الإسلام وبين الاعتقاد اللوثري بشكل واضح.
Islam teaches everyone that we are responsible for our deeds. So if we do something that is not right, it's on us. And my husband reassured me. He said, it's much easier to do things that are good. He said, there's so many ways that we can be good. So he kind of encouraged me. So then I decided to become Muslim, and I took my Shahada, And so even though I kind of knew what it meant, I still, of course, didn't know a lot about Islam. I was learning a lot, but still I felt, and especially now, I can look back and say I just barely scratched the surface. For me to feel comfortable that I'm not going to be expected to do anything very strange, or I wanted to be able to learn at my own pace. And also even wearing hijab. When I took my shahada, I was just wearing a small scarf and it was kind of tied in the back. So I didn't feel like either Salah or any of my friends were pushing me or saying you have to dress this way or you have to act this way or anything. They were all just very, very mellow and very calm with me. So that helped a lot.
كان عليها أن تخبر عائلتها وأصدقائها، وتقول جولي بأن الأمر لم يكن دائما كما تمنت أن يكون.
My sister that's 2 years younger than me, her name is Penny. I think in the beginning she was a little bit, she didn't know what that meant for me to change. So she was a little bit questioning of that. But I think with time, she understood that nothing was going to change. I know initially when I would go out with her, if I was wearing the scarf and we would go someplace that they knew my sister. And so sometimes I kind of felt like maybe she was a little bit shy about introducing me or something. But then after a few years, I've noticed that we laugh together, we talk when we're out together. And if we run into someone that she knows right away, she says, "Oh, this is my sister Julie." My youngest sister is a completely different story. Even before I was Muslim, she thought I was kind of a goody-goody. She thought that I didn't do anything wrong. So she had a hard time with me even before I was Muslim. But being Muslim did affect my relationship. But I think our relationship wasn't that good even before we were Muslim. She's 7 years younger than I was, and she did a lot of the things that I would never even think of doing. I had a hard time telling my mother, so I just decided I was going to call her on the phone. And so it was very emotional for me, very difficult. And so I called her on the phone and I told her, "Mom, I've decided to become Muslim." And she said, "I have 2 questions." She said, "Do you still believe in God?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And she said, "Will it make you happy?" And I said, "Yes, it will." So she said, "Beyond that, it's fine. You have to do what makes you happy."
I mean, even her family in the beginning, especially when they saw the scarf, they were kind of was in a state of shock in the beginning. But I think after that, after they got used to us and talk, and they see her actually even much more attached to her family. Her relationship with her mother and her sister even was stronger than before.
I know when I first took Shahada, my husband said, "You are going to lose friends." And I told him, I said, "No, not my friends. Not my friends. The people that I work with and some other friends that I have," I said, "No, I'm sure it will be just fine." And actually, my husband was right. I lost a lot of my friends because I wasn't going out. There was no drinking. And even there was one time that I went to lunch with some of my girlfriends and they ordered some drinks at the table that I was sitting. And the entire time I felt like I was sitting on pins and needles. I felt so uncomfortable being there. And after I left that, I said, I will never put myself in that situation again. I understand I did change. My priorities changed, my clothing changed, and actually Salah, when it was a few months later after I took Shahada, asked me to marry him, so then I knew my life would change even more. But there were still two of my friends that stayed with me. That one of my friends, her name was Faye. We could talk about anything. And she always told me, she said, Julie, no matter what you do, I know you are still the same person. So she said, we can be friends as long as you want to be friends. And so she was very committed to me. And so even after I was married, she was married, we had both children, we would get our children together and play together and everything. And so she was very committed to me. I think the one thing that changed in me the most after I became Muslim, and it didn't happen right away, because I was always the kind of person that when I walked into a room, I didn't like people looking at me right away. I was always a very kind of shy person. So in the very beginning, when I first started dressing differently, I knew that that would be something difficult for me. But then after a while, I came to understand the reasoning behind wearing hijab, the reason behind praying 5 times a day, and it just gave me so much peace that I felt like I was doing something good and important. And now especially, I think I have more of a feeling that I'm doing something important because I work in an elementary school. I'm working around Muslims and non-Muslims.
You know, so your mom's that teacher.
So because I was starting to adjust and my scarves would get bigger, and so I started out with just a small scarf and tied behind, and then they got bigger and bigger and bigger, and then I brought them down in front. So my co-workers were actually adjusting to me as I was adjusting.
She started wearing it. I remember it was in a simple way in the beginning, and then after that she got the courage more, and it was a full scarf after a while.
People have stopped me even walking on the street. I've been in my car in parking lots. People have approached me in grocery stores, in shopping centers. So I feel like it's important for me, especially as an American Muslim, to be seen wearing the scarf, and also for even the teachers in my school. I go into the classes and I talk about Ramadan, and if there's a teacher that has maybe a conference with a Muslim family, teachers have approached me and said, should I offer to shake hands? Should I look at the woman? Should I look at the man? What should I do?
I think that her wearing the veil actually is a very positive thing, especially for the Somali students, but I think all the students, because they get to see that we all have differences and yet we're all the same. You know, she's an English-speaking woman just like I am, and she's a teacher and she teaches, and that wearing the veil and being Muslim doesn't affect her everyday job here at Oakwood Elementary School. It's been really kind of a wonderful thing for our Somali girls to see another adult, to see an adult beside their parents in, you know, their moms in the hijab. And they're very interesting, some of the things they say. They actually would go up to her and say, oh, you're Somali. And she'd have to explain, no, I'm Muslim, I'm not Somali. And so it's actually opened up some good conversations with my students.
I like this one. And this one is here we go. Okay. Definitions. Okay. I do teach in a school and I work with EL students, but I also do part-time real estate with my husband. We own our own company. I really consider us to be good partners because we talk a lot, we communicate, we work together. We are stronger together than we are apart. I know I have been approached by some people that have said, who makes you wear this scarf? Who makes you wear this material? Some people even call it a towel. But I keep on reminding them that if my husband forced me to do this, he would have to be following me around all the time. I am out doing my jobs, sometimes with my husband or sometimes without my husband. He doesn't have to do it because I am choosing to wear hijab. And I feel I'm very proud of wearing hijab.
Yeah, definitely here. I cannot, you cannot push anybody to do something they don't like to do. You know, it's kind of really sad and tragic to say that, but you really learn how to understand and appreciate Islam when you are in the West, because most of the behavior here, a lot of American people, they are exactly what Islam is looking for. You know, we see people are much more responsible. Unfortunately, you go to a Muslim country and you see the other side of the story, you see chaos. It is a challenge for people to stand in line, to take turns. I mean, also people are much more culture friendly, more kind. I see co-workers greeting you with a smile and good morning, and those things that Islam loves and encourages. Want the Muslim to be this way.
The reason that I think people, the belief that some Americans have about Islam has been distorted because of 9/11. I think before 9/11 it was mostly just kind of ignorance, frankly. I don't think a lot of people paid too much attention, especially in Minnesota. Minnesota is very, kind of Lutheran, Caucasian. We didn't have a large or very ethnically diverse population. I moved to Minnesota in 1980. And even the African American community was pretty small then. So I think most of it was just they didn't know.
I feel sometimes I'm treated a little bit different because, of course, some of the teachers, like right now, we have the end of the school year. So they're talking about the end of the school party. So they're going to go out on a boat, go out on a lake, and then they're going to be drinking and having food and things like that. Well, of course, everyone knows I don't drink, so they know I'm not even going to go. But most of the time, I feel they treat me pretty normal.
كيث إليسون هو عضو في الكونغرس الأمريكي ويعود الفضل إليه في قبول المسلمين في مينسوتا.
I think that having a Muslim congressman is a wonderful thing, especially for a state that doesn't have a lot of Muslims. And I think that he has brought a lot of understanding for people, especially in the Minneapolis area, the cities, the major urban areas. And I think he's allowed people to see a face of an American person who is Muslim and know that he is advocating for all of us. First of all, just even talking about being Muslim and being a practicing Muslim, I think allowed people to understand more about Islam and how what your practices are on a daily basis. I also know he took a trip overseas also, and he talked about it in the paper. They interviewed him when he went for the Hajj, and that was very, I thought it was a very wonderful article that they did in the paper because it allowed us to see from a personal perspective what it was like to do the Hajj. And I know Julie also has gone and has shared with me what a wonderful experience that was for her.
Most of the time, I try and and tell them about Ramadan. And at the end of Ramadan for Eid, I always bring in a big tray of baklawa that I make at my house. So I'm trying to show them that this is, even though 30 days I haven't been eating during the daytime, but now it's our festivities. So now they ask me about it. When is Ramadan going to be done? So now they ask me a lot more things about that.
Readiness. This is a life lesson.
And whenever I have evaluations, my evaluations are always very, very good. My principal is always talks so nicely, and on my evaluations he tells me, you're very open, you're very flexible in your time, you help people out, you respond quickly, you're kind to students. Sometimes I feel like I can use my religion in this school to my benefit. I want these children to grow up, and then when they leave, they'll say, when they hear something about Muslims, they'll say, but Mrs. Roddy, she wore the scarf and she wasn't like that. So I'm hoping they will carry some of the memories away with them.
هنالك الكثير من الشائعات حول المسلمين، وتحدثنا جولي عما إذا كانت حياتها المهنية قد تأثرت لكونها مسلمة، وكذلك عن كيفية تعامل الناس معها.
I was at home with my children until my youngest one got into first grade. But the first time that I went out to apply for a job, of course my legal name is Julie Roddy. So I apply for a job, they see my application, but they don't see me. So when I first walked in for an interview, all of a sudden I just felt like everyone just kind of sat back in their chair or something. They were a little bit surprised. And I applied with a school in Minneapolis Public Schools. I don't know if wearing a scarf made a difference. He seemed to be open about it, and I met with the teacher, and she seemed to be very open about it, but I'm never quite sure, and I hate to assume.
If people are prejudiced and they feel uncomfortable, it's fine. I walk away, they go their way, they find another person, but as long as they feel comfortable, and I try to put them at ease as well as my husband. We have been referred to some people before that, generally they get used to us, but if they don't, it's fine. There are other realtors.
I had a good impression, a good first impression, not only as a realtor, but as a Muslim woman. She presented herself very professional, very respectful.
تشعر جولي بالسعادة الغامرة لما آلت إليه حياتها بعد اعتناقها الإسلام.
I feel truly blessed to be a Muslim. I think part of it is I've been Muslim for just about 30 years, but I think also with age, as I've gotten older and I feel more comfortable doing the things that I do, because I feel like it's allowed me to really prioritize, and the job that I have allows me to be very busy with my family, and even though both of my sons are married now and I'm a grandmother, I'm still very busy in their lives, and they're busy in my lives, and we enjoy the time that we spend together. So it's honestly, alhamdulillah, we're healthy, we're all together. It couldn't be better.
والثوب